Hi guys. So today we are going to discuss on the India-US trade reset that has recently happened. So India and the United States have reached a landmark interim trade agreement with formal framework released on February 7th, 2026, which happened just a few days after the India-EU trade deal happened. So this isn't just a minor update, but it is a very important current affair for GDPI processes because this might just be a recent button on a trade war that has cost both nations billions of dollars. The headline is that a massive reduction in US tariffs on major Indian exports like textiles, leather, and machinery, slashing the rate from a staggering 50% down to 18%. And we act in GDPI processes, we actually need to understand whether this is a victory or a loss for India. So, to understand why this might be a victory, we have to look what actually happened in the past in 2025. So, in April 2025, President Trump imposed 25% of reciprocal tariff because he argued that since India charges such high duties on American products like you can say Harleys, Apple phones, Apples, and all, so the US would like to match them. Or everything that was imported had high Indian tariffs. That was exported from India had less tariffs compared to US. And again, in August 2025, an additional 25% of oil penalty was slapped on Indian exports. And what was the reason? The reason was that India continued to buy Russian crude oil despite US pressurizing India to buy the crude oil from US itself. And in total, what was the result? A 50% total tariff that made in India products uncompetitive. And that is what exactly Trump wanted. On one hand, India faced 50% total tariffs, while rivals like Vietnam and Bangladesh were paying much less and their exports were increasing comparatively. But recently, on February 6, 2026, the two largest democracies hit the recent button finally. Under this new interim deal, total US tariff on India will drop to 18%, and that might be a deal. So, what actually happened? The 25% oil penalty that the punitive charges that US charged on India has totally been scrapped. The reciprocal tariff has been cut from 25% to 18%, making the final total tariff on India, US tariff on India, to be 18%. And to say this wasn't a one-way street, India has agreed to pivot away from Russian energy, though no formal statement has been released by India, but that is what Trump says. But because Indian officials have maintained this a strategic autonomy also, but India has committed to purchasing $500 billion worth of US energy, technology, aircraft, and coking oil over the next 5 years. Furthermore, India has opened its gate to US tree nuts and soybean oil, but it is very important to know, and this can be asked in GDPIs also, that India has protected its sensitive sectors. That is, dairy, meat, poultry, and grains are out of the deal, and that is just to protect the livelihood of 1.4 million Indian farmers. But one might argue that wasn't the tariff much lower than 18% before 2025? And is 18% still very high? But I feel in a world of global trade wars, 18% might just be a very good competitive advantage because India at 18% now has a better rate than Vietnam 20%, Bangladesh 20%, Indonesia 19%, and it is significantly lower than China, who has been imposed tariffs of around 30 to 47% depending on the type of product. So this makes India the most reliable and affordable China plus one partner for the West. And this deal transforms India into a global hub for data centers and semiconductor assembly that was also discussed in the US trade deal. And the US is also removing tariffs on Indian generic drugs, which will benefit giants like Sun Pharma and Dr. Reddy's. But it is important to know about that this deal might not be perfect as of now. And it is important to know that this is just an interim agreement, meaning both sides will continue to weigh the pros and cons before a permanent treaty. But for now, India has secured its spot as the world's reliable manufacturing alternative to China after its trade deal with European Union also, proving that in 2026 trade is about more than just numbers, it's about strategic partnership. So everyone who is preparing for GDPIs, this topic is a very important topic because in interviews they don't want to know the headline. They want to know what will happen if this deal goes through. कि इंडिया को कितना फायदा होगा, यूएस को कितना फायदा हो रहा है, किसका ज्यादा हो रहा है, एंड इसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा, एंड हाउ मच दिस डील इज बेनिफिशियल. बट like I always say, get the news, know the fact, but always form your own opinion because I feel for GDPIs, originality is the best way to ace any kind of interview. So I hope you are able to learn from this and form your own opinion and have a constructive discussion on this. So, all the best to each and everyone that is sitting through the GDPI processes this year. And I hope this information was useful. To get more such detailed analysis of current affairs, you can join the PrepNape group, and the link for the same will be below. Thank you.